What is going on? Okay,
What's
so
going on?
this is an exciting moment. I have the very first interview for the come up. Please introduce yourself because this is an exciting time.
What's going on? My name's Niemanog. I'm a producer from Colorado Springs, Colorado. I've been producing for about 6 years now, so it's been an exciting journey. I'm glad to be on today, man, and thanks for inviting me to do this. This is incredible.
Man, I'm happy for you to be here because one, you said you've been doing this for 6 years. So what got you
Mhm.
interested in producing in the first place?
So I was thinking about this story today. So actually, when I was in college, I was a freshman in college in 2015. And I got a MacBook. So I immediately like messed around with GarageBand and stuff. And actually, one of my best friends at the time was like, "Hey man, I want to start rapping." I'm like, "Well, sweet, I'll make some beats, you know." So that kind of like snowballed a little bit, and he ended up not really pursuing rap that much. But I'm like, I gotta stick to this, you know. Like I've already put in the time and whatnot. So
Right.
I just kept producing. And so when things really started to kind of like, I kind of got an idea. I'm like, I could maybe actually do this, you know, or like figure something out. So during college, I studied abroad in the Netherlands.
Oh wow.
And sure enough, one day I met someone, just, I don't know, kind of like a student gathering or something. He was an artist in the Netherlands. And he's like, come over one day to the studio. We'll mess around with stuff. And I came over and I showed him some beats, and I mean, looking back at them now, I'm like, oh my gosh, those were terrible, you know.
That's how it
But
goes.
I'm like, yeah. But he was kind of the first, and this was in 2018. He was like, like you can sell these, right? And I'm like, get out of here, like maybe, and but so that kind of started, and that's when he was a big on Instagram then. So he's
Mhm.
like, start putting your stuff on Instagram. So this is about 2018. And I just started putting stuff on Instagram, like I hijacked my personal Instagram and just like everyone that followed me, I just like started putting beats and people were like, what is this? I'm like, well, I've been doing this for a while now, and so it just kind of started snowballing there. I like my original like kind of idea was like even before I knew about maybe beat stars or selling beats, like I was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna try to work with some artists and like, like build the streams and kind of just like I wanted a song on Spotify, Like
Right.
that's kind of when DistroKid came out and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, like, we can work, do the 50-50 splits and like get songs out. And then, like, I have a couple songs on my Spotify with artists from the Netherlands from around that time period, like 2018, 2019. So that's kind of how it first started. And I guess, like during the pandemic and whatnot, like this is where we're at now. I've gone in.
Wow. That's an incredible journey, and just to see that you started out on GarageBand, which I feel like is such a similar story because I first
Mhm.
started making I first started a beat on GarageBand. But
Awesome.
I didn't have a Mac. I just knew a family member that did. So anyway, but
Mhm.
it's very interesting how many people started making stuff on GarageBand in some way, somehow,
Oh, yeah.
and then hearing about the fact that you were met this artist from the Netherlands while you were studying abroad. Like, what are the
Mhm.
odds? And that he would say, "Oh man, you could sell these and get it on Instagram." So when it comes to social media, because you're talking about Instagram, how is social media incorporated into what you're doing now?
I mean, I think it's essential, Like I think that's one of the biggest things is maintaining an online presence and constantly putting your beats out there on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all these big social medias. I mean, like Instagram, I've always loved Instagram as just an app. It's always been a great app, but it's always like I've always just liked the vibe, and there's always artists on Instagram. That's one of the main places. As much as we have producers that like to put their stuff on Instagram, artists are always putting things on Instagram all the time. So it's a great place to connect and network. And I'm thinking about this right now. I'm like, besides several other sites and whatnot, it'd be a hard to like be a producer in 2023 without having big social media like presence.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I know there are people that aren't on social media who are still doing well. I just was
Hmm.
watching a video from Jake One, and he was talking about a sample maker. I think his name is like Dawu or Dawu or something. I'd have
Hmm.
to watch the video again. But he doesn't have any social media. However, he just got a placement with, I guess, Jake One produced a J. Cole song, and he got this
No
from
kidding.
that sample maker. So of course there are those rare cases where, like, someone may not have so much social media and can still create success depending on like their connections, maybe in real life
Hmm.
or whatever. But I think in this day and age, social media is a very essential part of a lot of producers and just entrepreneurs, businesses now. You know what I mean? In regards
Oh
to
yeah.
social media. So, with that being said, though, with your social media strategy, I would say, are you creating content that is showing your face in it, or no, you're not showing your face, or a combination? What's your approach to how you've been able to grow your social media so far?
So that's actually a great question because I mean that's been a big hot topic lately is showing your face, especially as producers. Like, I didn't get into it to show my face and be in the spotlight all the time, or like so that's like, but it's a big deal because there is that personal connection that you get with showing your face, having your presence there, like that helps you build like following. But I like to me these days, I really think it just if you're if your work is where it should be and you have this unique definitive sound or just like it to me it was like with Instagram when I, when you make a post it's like you want to what catches the ear like there is like that facial recognition but like are you creating a sound that define or people can pick up on it like right away they're like oh I know who made that like I know recognize that sound that influence on that beat so that's been a big part to me because honestly, I'm not a big fan of sitting there making videos of me jamming out to my beats. Like it's like, like today I'm always moving around. I'm always like kind of road tripping, traveling around. So I don't have a definitive studio where I make music. So
Right.
to have that presence itself would be hard for me. So I know there's some people that are against visualizers and say visualizers are dead, but I'm like, I think they work great, especially if you have spent the time creating your signature sound or like something that defines you. I don't think it matters to me personally, like showing your face. And I mean, there's always, yeah, and I mean, it is an important part though, and it's not like I keep my identity like hidden away, but I'm like, that isn't how I want to present my content. And at the end of the day, I was just talking to another producer. Stuff takes a lot of work and time, like
Yeah.
content like that.
Yeah, I think it definitely just depends on the producer because, of course, like I
Mm.
show my face every day. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it
yeah.
depends on the producer and kind of your personality and what you're looking to
Mm.
do. Um, Visualizers definitely do work. I mean, because
Oh yeah.
I created like a secondary brand just to try out something, and I didn't show my face at all, and I still was able to show like I've sold 3 beats on that. Like
Mm.
page, and I haven't put in really much effort. I'm gonna put more effort into the secondary brand. But anyway, point of the matter
Mm.
is I didn't show my face and I really didn't need to. And so I just used visualizers from Render Forest and stuff like that. So
Right
yeah,
on.
I definitely think it depends on you and what your mission is as well, because some people just want to essentially be behind the scenes. They don't necessarily want to be famous in a way of like,
Mm.
oh, being seen. So I think it depends on like what is your goal. At least for someone like me, like I don't just make money from selling beats. Like I do content. I've
Mm.
done stuff for like Coca-Cola, Snapchat, and different companies.
Mm.
So like showing my face is essential. However, for someone like you, that may not be a priority because you're just interested in being able to connect with artists, but you're fine with connecting through like the DMs or whatever. and
Hmm.
that kind of thing. And I see you post pictures from time to time, to let people know, oh, I'm here, I'm in Ohio or
Yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean? So I think it's cool how you've been able to incorporate that where it's not completely like, oh, you're anonymous, where no one knows who you are or what you look like, but also
Hmm.
not making it where it's like sole part of your brand where you have to be in front of the camera every day because it can be a lot, especially with editing and doing all that. So it just depends on what your focus is. But it seems like it's been working out for you thus far for what you've been doing. So it's not something
Thank
to be
you.
like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're not showing your face because not everybody wants to. I know I put out a
Hmm.
post about faceless content that producers can do, and it was a lot of ideas. So
Hmm.
there's ways to go about it. But to get into the next part of this, when it comes to building relationships with artists, right? Because that is something I think is missed out on, especially in our producer community. There's a lot of focus on getting
Hmm.
sales, getting sales. We see the screenshots on social media. You know how it goes.
Oh yeah.
And of course, celebrating your wins, there's nothing wrong with that. However, I want to talk to you about this because I know you're very focused on the customer service aspect and building
Hmm.
relationships with artists. So I wanted to know what is your approach to building relationships with artists because it's gotten you this far and only going to get you further.
Absolutely. I mean, like we are, I don't know the right words to put it, but we are essential to each other, like our work is nothing without them and vice versa. I mean, obviously there are people that have the arguments, instrumental tapes, blah blah blah. Like I'm not talking about any about this. I'm talking about a complete track. Like, we are as essential to them as they are to us. And I mean, I really like, I think it just makes it so much more enjoyable and fun, like when you have a solid relationship with the artist, like, and I think it is easy to get lost in, the BeatStar sales notifications and all of that. Like, I mean, that stuff's awesome. Like, that is the coolest thing in the world, of course, but it's like, are you talking to the other person on the other end of this transaction? Like, are you just seeing a dollar sign when it goes through? Or are you seeing a person that is creating art? And I think that's one of the easiest mistakes to make is getting lost in that transaction and nothing more. Like, if someone purchases a product from you in any regards, like this is you have to maintain those relationships. And this is a customer, yeah, at the end of the day, but this is someone that believed enough to purchase your work out of millions of other producers, so but then at the same time it's also important to just build these relationships regardless of these sales notifications, because I mean, we've all done it before, like where you just see an artist, you're like, oh yeah, you want beats or whatever. It's like that doesn't work. Like, what are you gonna take the time and go through their, Instagram or Spotify even and maybe listen to their work and spend some time like, hey, maybe I actually do have a beat like that. And you don't even think about that for a long time. You just keep that on the back burner and still just be like, build a relationship, be like, oh, I checked that out the other day. That was awesome. Like, I think it's easy to get lost in those, BeatStar notifications or transactions. And I mean, and I really believe this year. I think it's important to really return to these producer artist relationships, because right now it is very like there's a divide, I feel like, honestly, and it bums me out because at the end of the day, all the smoke aside, like we're here to create music, right? Like, are you doing this to create music or just to make a living? Like, well, yeah, making a living comes after. Like, we are here to create art, music, like, and I think getting lost in that it can really like skew your focus, your mental, like where you're going with conversations with artists, like anyone can DM an artist, but if you're just gonna be like, oh hey, check out these beat stars links, it's like most of the time, like I try to like not even send any kind of beat star or beat selling website link, like, oh hey, I got this, here's like a little 30-second snippet, because I think a lot of artists too do feel that that's all producers care about, really, is, they want to get that BeatStars notification posted on Twitter, oh, and then everyone's going crazy. It's like, Yeah, that's awesome. Who doesn't love that? But at the same time, like there is another person on the end of that transaction that just purchased your product and believed in your work that you put out. So how do you maintain that and how do you grow on that? You know?
Yeah, no, and I love that you have such a focus on relationships because I do believe that in this profession there can be a very selfish aspect to it, right? Because
Hmm.
we are driven sometimes, like we said, by the sales, by the notifications, by the PayPals, the Stripe notifications, and all
Oh
those
yeah.
things. And we do forget that there is a person on the other end. And
Hmm.
so playing that long game of building these relationships and recognizing that these are people on the other end is so important. And I'm so glad you said that because that's exactly, how I feel as well. As you know, I'm big on creating relationships
Hmm.
and working with people.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy that likes to put like screenshots of like conversations or,
Hmm.
roasting artists because I remember something that Curtis King said several years back about like not putting out content that is, potentially making fun of a potential customer or just the artist community because if that's who you're
Hmm.
selling to, why would you make content that is essentially bad mouthing these people, right? Because if you think about it, a lot of the jokes that are made in the producer community surrounding artists really are meant to be more funny to producers, right? But it's not exactly
No,
funny to
yeah.
the artist reading it because you might get an artist
Hmm.
that's like, oh, this producer is talking about, oh, how when I get paid next Friday. But the one thing that I've always said this, a lot of producers are not in a place where they're doing this full time to begin with, right? So,
Hmm.
like, a lot of producers are getting paid probably the same exact Friday that artist is getting paid on Friday. Uh,
Exactly, man.
so and
Hmm.
even if it's not the case, even if you are full time, it's still recognizing that people still have responsibilities. Life does not stop
Hmm.
because you want to do music, and especially if you're not doing it full time, there you still have those responsibilities that may be even more pressing because you're not there yet. You're not living off of the music.
Hmm.
It's something that you're passionate about. And so I also think that I'm sure you've noticed a lot of producers talk about, well, I had to buy the equipment, I had to do this and that. Well, if this is
Hmm.
what you want to do, then that is something you have to do. You have to invest. It shouldn't be on the
Yeah.
artist. It shouldn't be the artist's fault that you wanted to invest into your equipment and your stuff. That's what you want to do. And same thing for the artist.
Hmm.
The artist also has to invest on other things. So I think sometimes there's that like battle, as you said, in this divide where, oh, well, I'm investing more. No, I'm doing more. I'm spending more. I had to buy this and
Yeah.
this. And it's like, hold up. Like, we both have the common goal of wanting to create really awesome music and creating art. And so I do feel you on the fact that there is that missing component of what is the actual common goal of why we're even working together in the first place, right? So I, I
Hmm.
I love that you said that because you are very big on building relationships and making sure that the artist doesn't feel like just a transaction, which I know is going to help you get even further because that's what I've also been about, and I've still been doing this since 2013, selling beats online
Hmm.
and producing since 2010. So I know that like building relationships is
Yeah.
super key. And so something I wanted to ask you about because of course, we talked about the relationships briefly, and we could go on and on and on about that. But when it comes to your
Hmm.
sound, because you have a very unique style, you're willing to experiment, willing to, just push the boundaries and things like that. And I love that and how your sound has developed. You've gotten a lot better in as far as your growth of sound and getting more confident
Hmm.
what that looks like. But how did you get from just starting out making beats to getting to this point where you are locking into a sound that's yours and unique where artists can be like, oh man, I love working with Niemanog because he's got this specific sound and style.
That's a tough question, but it's a great question. Like it's taken me years. Like this is not something that it just happened overnight. Like I mean, there's years where I didn't even like make a full beat, where I would just spend hours upon hours in GarageBand just listening to the sounds, just listening to the synthesizers, the arps, all these sounds. I'm like, it it really truly takes time to define your sound and find what works for you. And I mean, I don't have any musical background at all. Like I will like give myself props for. I think I have a very good ear for music. Like I truly think I know, like when I can hear something, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's it. With songs, with beats, like I'm like, yeah, that's got it, like so that, I mean, I will prop myself up on that, but I don't know how to play any instrument or anything like that. So that might have taken me more time, but you can learn how to do that without, this musical background, but it will take time. And I really had spent so much time just listening to beats, like listening to music, like modern trap music. I mean, Future is probably the biggest inspiration just musically, and his producers, Metro, and all of them. Like, I spent time just listening to those beats. I'm like, how can I do this, or how can I spin something like this, or how can I make a sound like this, because it's not like my beats have beautiful piano melodies throughout them, or some, beautiful guitar riff or something. Like they're synthesized arps, like these dark, like textured sounds. I'm like, that's really like, I'm like, I thought to myself, I'm like, well, I can't make a beautiful piano pain beat, but I can make this like outer space sounding trap beat that, like, and I think it's important to really kind of hone in on that quick. It doesn't have to be quick, but you want to acknowledge it, right? You want to be able to, like, okay, well, this is going to work. I'm liking where this is going. And I mean, at the end of the day, too, kind of like when you first started asking me this question, I think this is kind of just ties in back to our whole like kind of getting lost of transactions. It's like I love music. Like music is therapeutic to me. Like I can get on Open Logic and 6 hours will go by like that. I'm like, holy crap, like how did that happen? But I'm like, some days like it'll be hard, like I didn't make anything, and I'm like, take a deep breath, like that's like therapy, like just sitting in there and creating and messing with sounds, figuring out what knob does what, like turning the attack up or down, the gate, just all that stuff. Like it's so truly therapeutic to me, like in so many ways. And I mean, and that's what's really taken me a long time. And like, it's 2023. I started producing in 2016, 17, not even producing, but just trying things out. It took me 6 years to find the sound, like, so that's the whole thing. Like, and that's definitely not something that I think every producer has to have if you want to, get started at maybe trying something out. You don't have to have a defined sound, but at the end of the day, like we've talked or people have talked before, like find something that works for you, that works for your schedule, what you like. And at the end of the day, don't ever lose sight of why you make music. So don't get it.
Don't get it wet.
I I lost my wording right there. I gotta say, I mean, just don't get lost in why you do this. Like, I think, I mean, I'm kind of backpedaling back to our your earlier question with the relationships with artists, and you'll get a BeatStar sales notification, and someone will message you, hey, well, show me how to do that. I'm like, well, is that all you want to do? Like, is that all you really care about? Like, is just getting that? Like at the end of the day, I mean, it's great, but it's like, is that truly why you want to produce music? Or is it, yeah, because it's like, you could see a BeatStar sales notification for $50. It's awesome. I could teach you how to do it, or, but I'm like, but do you really want to do this? Do you love this? Like, is this something that truly means a lot to you? And I mean, like in this past year, 2022, I dedicated my life to music. Like I not gave everything up, but I made a lot of life changes to like where I'm like, this is it, this is all I got. Like this is like opening logic means the world to me. Like that is, that's my life. And I think that to me is truly like one of the most important parts about making music is like finding that feeling. So
No, I definitely love that you are just so like passionate about creating and making music, and that's such a key component into this because like you mentioned, it's are you just doing this because you want to make sales, or do you really love what you're
Hmm.
doing? And obviously there has to be a balance, right? Because if you're running a business,
Hmm.
your business cannot run without it making money, of course. But not letting that be the only driving factor into why.
Hmm.
Because if you're not making those sales, are you still going to be excited about doing this? Is it still going to be something that you love doing even without sales? And when those sales come,
Hmm.
is that going to change you as a person? Is that going to change how you
Hmm.
treat people and things like that? So I want to get
Hmm.
into another thing as far as collaboration, because I know you do a lot of collaborations. We've collabed
Hmm.
before.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to know from you, as far as producer collaborations, what what do you look for in a collaboration, right? What's the best way to
Hmm.
kind of get a Niemanog collaboration? And then how has collaborating helped, what you're doing with your, online journey?
Yeah, well, I mean, collaboration is, I don't know, man, it's such a journey, you know. I tweeted about this the other day. I don't know if you saw it or not. I tweeted, I'm like, I love making beats by myself. Like, I absolutely love it, but collaborating with other producers is what takes you to the next level. Like, there's certain levels when you get another person working on something. It's just there's no other way. Like, it's so like two heads are better than one. Like it's one of the oldest sayings, you know, like that is what creates timeless music, you know, like people collaborating, working together. And I mean, I've heard a lot of loops, but there's been a couple loops I've heard lately that have just been like the most incredible loops I've ever heard. And I'm like, I need that one, you know, because like I send a lot of loops to people and vice versa, but there's just some ones that sometimes you just hear it. I'm like, I can't stop listening to this loop, you know, like. But collaborating, I mean, I was thinking about how you and I met, you know, because I remember that was, I think, the end of 2021. You had a collab with Guru, right? And then I remember like a couple of weeks later, I remember on Twitter, you like, I think you just like add me on Twitter, like, hey, we got a collab on something. I'm
Yeah, I
like,
reached out to you on Instagram. I believe I reached out
it
to you
was
on IG. Yeah, because I saw you on
okay.
Guru's page. Um,
Hmm.
and I was like, yo, we should collab.
Yeah, no, and I just think about that, and I mean, it was one of the most genuine like collab invites I've ever gotten. Like, you know, just the other day, like I posted like a BeatStar sales notification, you know, on Instagram story, and you know, you go to the DMs, and it's like, oh, let me send you loops, let me send you loops. It's like, come on, like, you know, I get where they're coming from. Like, absolutely like not trying to discredit or hate on that, but I'm like as the same with an artist, build your relationship with your producers, you know? Like these are your teammates, you know? Like that's what gets frustrating sometimes among the producer community is we don't like we're all on the same team, right? We all want to have the end goal to, create the best work we ever can. So I mean, but producer collabs are I think it's one of the best things you could do to like just reach new levels in any ways. I mean, look at us. We're having this conversation right now. Like a year ago, you would have told me
Yeah,
this was happening. I would have been like, what are you talking about? You know? So like
yeah,
relationships, I mean, in any business or, trade or work or whatever, networking is key, you know? So I think that truly is a very good just trait to have in this industry, the music industry. But at the same time, like I think there's proper ways to approach people. If someone, you see someone you want to collab, like I've done this before where there was a producer I liked and I like went and listened to their beats, you know? And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I see they got this kind of sound. Okay, I'll make a loop like that. It's like because you don't want to hit up a producer that makes drill and then try to send them, oh, I got some sweet country guitar riffs, you know? It's like, come on, like that's the
right.
same as a producer artist relationship. Like take the time, like this, and like just take your time, take a deep breath, and like if you really want to work with someone, really get out there and make it, you don't have to make it worth their while, I guess, but like just like put some, just some thoughts into it, like, do something that could really like just, I don't know, just set yourself aside maybe a little bit.
No, I definitely agree with that. And what I want to ask you, are there any, just name a few, are there any people, producers that you collabed with that really stand out to you?
Well, you of course, man. I will give you props right now. I love your drums. You have very great drums.
Thanks.
Um, no, seriously, your drums are crispy. Like I like
They're
those
gonna
a
think I
lot.
paid you to say that. He didn't. I
No,
didn't pay him
man,
to say
that's
that. Okay, I didn't.
I will I no, and I will say this too, man. And I wanted to mention this to you like anytime. I'm like, we get so lost in this content chase sometimes, of putting out content. Dude, you are a fire producer. Like
Thank you, man.
after you send me that beat back with the twerk beat,
Yeah,
I'm like, geez, your drums are just smacking, dude. They're
thank
just
you.
awesome. So
Appreciate
no, I really Sweet Speaker, she's a great
it.
collaborator.
Oh
She's
yeah, she's
very
awesome.
talented. She's awesome. There's a bit of couple that I've been working with on Twitter. It's Gigs. I've been sending him some kind of my like future kind of like trap melodies. He just has some drums that just really smack. Like I've really been digging his drums lately too. Um, we gotta give a shout out to our boy Joe the Trick. He's just killing it right now with his guitar. Like he's just a menace on there. Like I love his work so much, and uh, dude, it's just hard. Like those are some of my favorites right now, and I mean, you never know who could be the next one tomorrow. Like every day's a new opportunity to meet someone on Instagram, Twitter, like your next favorite collaborator. But those are some of my favorites that come off the top of my head right now.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I mean, those are all talented individuals, that are
Mm-hmm.
doing great things in the producer community as well. And so we're gonna be wrapping it up. So I gotta ask you
Mm-hmm.
these like quick fire questions. Okay, so if you could give a tip to an up and coming producer, what would you tell them?
Um, Ask yourself if you really like this, if you really love producing. Like, are you in it because you think it's something that will completely change your life? You'll get rich, you'll see beat stars, sales notifications all the time, or do you really like making music? Like, I really think I would sit down and ask yourself that question or just think about it, like think about why you want to produce. Do you think it's just easy and everyone can go get the big platinum placement, like, or do you really want to do this? Like, do you love to make music? I think that's very important. And I still have to ask myself that some days because we all get lost in that feeling, you're like, you make a beat sale, you feel like you're on top of the world, and then the next day you're like, oh, what's up? What's wrong? Like it. So I think you really, and I guess maybe just like a side piece of advice, just be patient and take your time. Like this isn't a race; it's a marathon.
No, I love that. And what up and coming artists that you've worked with that you feel are going to really blow up or just take it to the next level that you've worked with?
Ooh, there's so many. So I gotta give a first shout out to my boy Mill Green. He was one of the first artists I worked with from the Netherlands. Great, talented artist. Like he's dropping an album this year, so it's gonna be great. Um, I don't. How do we pronounce that guy's name from Twitter? Siamosa.
Uh
I don't know. I
Yo,
feel so bad,
come
dude.
at us. Come at us in this interview because we're gonna we're gonna tag you and be like, say your
Oh,
name again.
yeah. But I want to give a shout out to him. Like he has the best energy, like, and he is just excited to make music like every day.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't want to like try to pronounce his name because I might say it way wrong and get yelled at.
It's how it is sometimes. It's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. But no, but I mean, and there's just so many talented. I had an artist that had been a client of mine for several years that reached out to me a couple weeks ago and bought some beats, and his name is Own Yourself, and he's been making some great music too. There's just so many great people to meet through this opportunity to with music, you know. So there's so many talented artists, but those are some of my favorites. Some of them excited. Our boy, he's dropping the EP on February 14th. So
Nice, nice, nice.
mm,
And see, that's what's so great about working with artists is that like there
mm,
are those people that stand out to you that you're like, man, you
yeah.
really are just awesome and things like that.
Mm.
Um, what are some of your go-to plugins, VSTs kind of thing? What are some of your go-to when you're creating melodies? Because I know you create a lot of melodies, so what's your go-tos?
Um, so for like like my kind of favorite sound, I guess the sound I've been with like these outer space kind of like future type vibes. Like, dude, Logic has some of the best stock plugins for sounds, especially ARPs. Like some days I will literally just go in there with a one chord and loop it like for 8 bars, and I'll just put an ARP on it and play with the knobs, like with the attack, the drive, like all that. And it's just like honestly, Logic is just a great DAW in my opinion. In any way, like I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions about DAWs, but Logic is great. Honestly, I've
Yeah.
really here's some secret sauce, and I don't know if this is good or not, but I've been putting the RC20 like 808 Dirt Punch plugin on my 808s, and it's kind of been making them
You said the
like it.
RC20. Wait a second. What? You put so wait, let me know. The RC20, let us know again.
I
Say
will. So RC20 has like two, I believe they're like stock, they're not stock like settings, I believe. And one
mm,
of them's 808 Dirt Punch. And
808
it,
Dirt Punch. I'm gonna have to write this
uh-huh.
down. Stop playing with
You
me.
should. No, it's good.
If y'all see me on the phone, it's because I'm gonna write this down. I don't want to miss out because I will forget. Okay, so it's RC20. Perfect.
Dirt
Okay.
Punch. Dirt Punch.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Y'all heard it here. He's giving us the gems. Anyway, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, so like what I really love about it is it has like so it's like a setting for the plugin RC20 itself, but it has the filters where you can go to like certain I don't know if it's compressions on the 808, but it has like it's an air filter on the 808, and
Oh,
it just makes it stand out so much better in your beat. Like, cause I mean, when you're mixing 808s, a lot of them, like, cause I post the beats on Twitter, Instagram. Like most people are listening on their phone, right? Like no,
right.
most
Yeah.
people aren't in their car listening to a beat,
Yeah.
like so they can hear the 808. Like so for some beats having that kind of like airy 808 that's like stands out in the mix, I'm like that's great for like you're not like promoting your content because people 808 is what makes
Yeah, it
trap
drives a lot of the
music.
beats. Yeah, depending on
Yeah,
the style.
man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Man, that is a gem. See, that's why I had to get that down in my phone immediately. Uh
I
so
love it.
listen, first of all, this was super great. I hope you enjoyed it because this is, the first interview of the
Mm,
series, and I would talk more and more and more and more. We could go on and on. You're
mm.
just laughing about how our first conversation on Zoom was like over 2 hours or whatever.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
but one, I'm really glad that you got on here because first of all, you're going to be the first one that drops. So when people watch this, you're the
Mm,
first one in the series. So I'm super excited, and also that we're friends too. We've been able to develop
yeah.
just a friendship outside of just producing. You have
Hmm.
a beat pack on my site, the Global Beat Pack. Just to shout that
Absolutely.
out on beatpacks.co. But
Hmm.
we work together, and I trust in your sound and just you as a person, your character, which is why you're really the only producer that's on my Beatpack website at the moment.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you're always team mini gang in my eyes, but I want you
Absolutely.
to let people know where they can find you, what you've got going on, and just close this out for us.
Well, I'm always active on Twitter, Instagram. You can find me on those. I'm Niemanog Beats on beatstars.com. But Twitter and Instagram, best place to get in contact with me. I'm always on there. I'm social media hound these days, so I spend way too much time on there, but I love it. So if you want to get in contact and work, DM me, and I'm always down to meet new artists or producers who are ready to get on it.
Perfect. And is there anything that you want to say that we missed, or that you feel like you just, if you don't get it outside of your head now, you'll
Mm-mm.
forever regret, or are you good?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Seriously. Like it
No,
means a lot.
this,
I really appreciate you, man. Like it's been a great year and some like just getting to know you. And I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm thinking about this to myself right now. I'm like, how cool is this? like,
man,
like, like how, like seriously, like and forget all the transactions, all that stuff. I'm like, this is awesome, like this is at the end of the day, this is what I'm always wanted to work for, like someone asked me to be interviewed. Oh, what?
yeah, yeah. Well, I
That's
mean, I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, man. I want to say thank you for that, and like, but like this is awesome. Like this is why we do it right here. Like for this, like I'm gonna have a smile on my face for the rest of the day, because I just talked to a good friend, and I maybe someone will listen to me and be like, oh, maybe or just help someone out. Like that's what it's all about.
Yeah, man. Well, I loved being able to do this, and
Hmm.
I'm glad that you were the first person that, because I texted you as soon as I was like, okay,
Hmm.
like I had my like list of people I knew I wanted to reach out to, and you were
Hmm.
definitely at the top of that list. So I'm glad you
Thank
took
you.
the time to be able to do this, and I'm sure that people are going to be inspired by this interview, and we're definitely going to have to do a part two. I'm putting this out now because I just feel like there's so much more that we can say
Absolutely.
and some updates. So I'm really proud of
Hmm.
you, man. You're really killing it, and I'm
Thank
just
you.
so grateful to be connected with you as something as random as an Instagram DM of wanting to collab with you. Um,
Hmm.
and do you charge for collabs? That's a thing that I know that's like super random, but do you charge for collabs?
No, I'm not. I'm not
Okay,
charging for collabs. So I actually,
perfect.
if anyone's interested in collaborating with me, I put up 75 loops from I made last year. They're free for download on my BeatStars, just 50-50 split if you upload to the site. So if anybody that's interested that wants to work on something as soon as possible, be available in the link in my bio.
All right. Well, listen, this was wonderful. I really appreciate you doing this, and this was fun. And like I said, we're gonna have to do a part two. But until next time, thank you for the person behind the screen watching this interview, and I just appreciate all the support. Please support Niemanog. He's a great guy, a really great producer for all the artists that are looking for quality beats and just someone who's gonna actually
Mm.
care about you, more than just the money aspect, and a lot of gems were dropped into this interview. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man.